for example, they think that the law thinks that the abortion is killing fetus. When there are people who don't think so, we want to follow to what people think. We base it on people, just like how the law are made in the past, for example. So comparatively to side oppositions, firstly, legal principles would mean you're going to rigid to law only. Law is already outdated since it is made by peoples in the past. It doesn't align at all with the social movement interest, social movement agenda that is progressive on our side of the house currently. So opposition have to prove why then they will fulfill social movement agenda later on their side. And secondly, then judicial reviews would mean that on their side doesn't know what people want because it is only based on law. And comparatively to side government, we have people's own interests and voices voiced out on our side. We have people who speak up on the issues they are facing directly. And this means that the voice of the peoples on our side is going to be credible in the end of the day. Exactly because we listen to the people, we listen to what they want. So they can also participate in voicing out their opinion through lobbying that is prioritized on our side. So thirdly and lastly, lobbying would probably something that is more active on our side. When people people lobby means that they do it in diplomatic sense. Diplomatic sense. So peoples are less likely to riot on our side exactly because people are still going to be rationals. They will solve it with as peacefully as they can, as peacefully as possible, and do the discussions on our side exactly because if the government don't listen to the people, as the last resort, they will riot on our side in terms of lobbying, for example, and protest to the government, and as the last resort. So people, in terms such as people stop working after my first argument, in terms of people stop working, for example, massively to lessen the productivity of the country, and this is the kind of lobbying that will happen on our side of the house. This is important because we want to advocate based on people's interests rather than what the law want on your side of the house. Exactly because lobbying would mean that people directly participating rather than only relying on lawmakers to represent them as individuals, as peoples, as the citizens within the country, and their voice itself as a citizen. So it is what the people want, not what the law wants. Yes, POI.
The parameter of progressive is whether or not you can create progress to the people on the ground, not whether or not the voices of people are created. But even if so, social movements speak for the people on the ground, still created on our side.
Exactly, because if you want something that is progressive, our side provide that progressivity from the social movement by letting people to participate in the social movement by lobbying itself. So moving on to second argument then, why lobbying is more likely to work rather than judicial reviews to garner legislative changes. Lobbyings, in terms of lobbyings, 3 points. Firstly, lobbying can be conducted multiple times on our side. This means comparatively to judicial reviews, the social movement cannot oppose it again since it is verified by the constitutions already. It's already decided on their side of the house. It's really hard for you to actually propose for another policy or for another law to be made or to be changed on their side of the house. This means it's going to take a longer time on their side to actually be for people to be represented. So secondly, government have the obligations to listen to actually listen to the people, and exactly because the more people who join us, the more power that we're going to have as a social movement. Exactly because government won't completely ignore us because they know that something is happening and should be catered. Exactly because they want to solve the issue as itself to get a better reputation as a government. So thirdly, it is something, lobbying is something that is more updated on our side, exactly because we oppose anything that is concerning the legislative changes in terms of we're going to paying too little details that should be the obligations of what the government should be paying attention on our side of the house. Comparatively, side opposition are not going to be that impactful. The impact is not massive, exactly because it is something that if a certain principle is bad, this means if it's illegal on their side of the house, it's still going to be passed by the law itself. But comparatively to side government, if something is legal, but if the principle is bad, it's not going to be passed on our side of the house, exactly because we know that something is bad. People don't want that. We won't we won't pass it down in our law for on our side of the house, and therefore we proud to propose.
Thank the speaker for their speech. To open up the case of the opposition, I call upon the first speaker of the opposition. Here.
Social movements are able to pierce when there is no affiliation or intervention of power imbalance. This is why currently within the status quo, we still have the Willow Project still continues to degrade the environment continuously, where there is a status of policymakers to continuously abide and manipulate us. This is why the state of feminism still remains on early waves within developing countries. We say that the objectivity of law gives a helping hand for us, especially with the adaptivity of law, and cannot be catered to by and affiliated by certain political ideologies and suddenly entering the cage where they are the most superior under their instances, especially when you enter the territory of their lawmakers in and of itself. Two fatal flaws then coming from proposition. Number one, I think there's still no process analysis and there is still operating on the best case scenario where there will suddenly be a fair discussion at the end of the day. But then I think that there is still no likelihood and answer to what extent this fair discussion will suddenly happen, because we say the process of unrest will actually happen worse under their side due to the fact that within these instances there will most likely going to be an intercepting amount of ideologies and intercepting amount of interest, especially if this is against a degree of government and society. Therefore, we say the process of discussion or discourse that you're creating here has no process analysis, therefore it cannot really fly. But second of all then, I think to begin with, they're playing on the safety net where they assume that we are playing in an ideal government. As they state that government has the responsibility to listen towards the people. If we are talking about an ideal government, then we shouldn't be listening, then we shouldn't be debating here. We say that we are operating on an ideal government where they will only cater towards the majority and only cater towards the voters buy-in. They need to take into account that they are playing on the safety net of the government inherently. Therefore, this claim cannot really fly if you are only operating on this generic analysis inherently. Two rebuttals then before I move on to my arguments. First, the idea about rigid and rigid only. I think 2 points about this. First, we say no because to begin with, the concept of law is still adaptive towards the current moral standards that are still available within the status quo, where it can still adapt and still see the objectivity. But under their side, the parameter or subjectivity towards in which you to what extent will you accept the policy is still blurry at the end of the day. Where I think to begin with, second response then, I think even then the process of rigidness is actually good because there is still an active moral and intention or moral standard to what extent that we are following. Like for example, I think the limitations of women's bodily autonomy is inherently bad, and we can still prove the harms inherently without any forms of debate or any intercepting political ideology that can be affiliated within these types of instances where there is no process justification that can actually intercept within our own agenda. But second of all, talking about the idea of efficiency, I think to begin with there is still no process analysis because what they need to take into account and what they have not considered is that policy making is a form of waiting list or later that you will still cater to, and it will still have a form of other agendas that the government needs to pursue. But under our side, it's comparatively better because what's the difference here is that we demand you to actually pursue these types of things where we fit into your schedule and this is what you need to follow, as opposed to you accepting or having the autonomy of accepting the agenda or accepting the proposal in and of itself. Therefore, inherently efficiency is actually better on our side. More on my second argument. Yeah, before that, yes.
What if a legislation was passed because in theory it is legal but morally unjustified, like the anti-abortion law?
I think okay, I will answer that later, but if you see no answer within my speech, you can still conduct later. Two arguments then coming from opposition. Number one, about the objectivity of law assisting social movement. Second, about the efficiency within law. First argument then, about the objectivity within law to assist social movement. I think that what they're inherently trying to do here with their own forms of lobbying is to only meet with the lawmakers, is just entering their territory, to constantly meet them and get cornered and to get intimidated. Especially if you're a minority, the way you enter their offices and the way they stare at you is already a form of intimidation tactic, where they will always try to fearmonger you, especially if you are trying to harm and try to get rid of them within the parliament and try to consolidate and going against their own agenda. Therefore, we still say under our side, it's justified to operate under judicial review simply because the process of law operates on an objective basis, where we I can draw the parallel to things like mens rea or actus reus, for example, where it will always be a harm or malicious intent that will still be taken into account, where I think like the process of environmental degradation is still seen as displacing indigenous individuals or the atrocity towards the ecosystem. But under their perspective, through meeting the lawmakers and discussing towards them, there will be a leeway to constantly justify your own reasonings, where you still justify it is okay because it is a matter of infrastructure, long-term development, or economical development, etc. Therefore, in addition towards this, the ones that are in power are most likely going to be the constitution. They're the ones that are handling these types of instances. Therefore, they are the ones that are going to make the decision, that are going to make the decisions under our side. Where, to begin with, it's better because they operate on the basis of law that is completely objective and inherent, where they have nothing to lose at the end of the day. But comparatively under their side, when you attack the policymakers, it feels as if you're attacking their reputation. Therefore, I think under our side, we create a bargaining power because we have always been undermined in terms of ideology, where constantly women are suffering and the overemphasis on infrastructure can actually be harmful to be assisted by the law inherently. But comparatively under their side, it's harmful because to begin with, it has many externalities that can diminish the capability of social movement. It has three analyses here. First, this imposes a superiority complex, where in these individuals and policymakers, they feel as if they are always right, where they do not want to evaluate and constantly recheck their own actions because they internally position themselves into that way, where they feel as if they're always superior, or to the extent in which their ideology, etc. But also B, I think that to begin with, under their side, you're only attacking their own forms of ego, and what you're only trying to do is sending a message that you did wrong under their own forms of systems of lobbying. Therefore, this only manifests into you do not want to get called out and hurting your own reputations and feeling as if you are hurt as a degree of politician, for example. This is why the Pandawara group was shut down, because it tarnishes the reputation of local government. Therefore, in these instances, it actually fails. But see, I think this the most important thing. You are lesser in priority for the people, for the policymakers to listen to you, because when they operate on voters, yet social movement are a minority in terms of number and in terms of power, where you offer no sense of connection. Meaning, when you are an enemy of the state, what you're only trying to do is that it has no incentive to actually accept you whatsoever. Therefore, there is no incentive because because these politicians will only lose their own existing voter base. Therefore, they won't listen to any of these instances. Where the reason as to how like feminist movement entered or progressed in Indonesia to begin with is actually because they have a degree of insider, not because they negotiated with negotiated with many people within the policymaker. It goes to show that towards this extent, the system is inherently corrupt under their side. Second argument then, talking about the efficiency in law. I think like in government, I think like to begin with, in government, you want them to be available, but under our side, we demand them to actually to constantly change and to attend these types of scenarios where we coerce them into following our own agenda, because it is a matter of law and illegal if you do not pursue it. This is justified under two main metrics. Number one, exactly as they stated, it's comparatively better on our side because it's less time consuming, where you do not take time in offering proposals, getting rejected, and that is assuming that you were seen to begin with in terms of proposals. Therefore, I think like it in piles, especially in these types of instances, they are catering to many piles of agenda, catering towards their own voters, etc. But second of all, even if in the worst case we actually fail, it's okay, because to begin with, it is followed by mass exposure, especially within these instances when you take them into court. It is a high publicized cases where they're open to the public and how we associate law with something grand and inherently good. Therefore, under all those reasoning, vote for opposition. Yeah.
Thank the speaker for their speech. To continue the case of the proposition, I invite the second speaker of the proposition. Here.
check. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Throughout LO entire 8-minute speech, they never explain what judicial reviews look like on their side of the House, what is the metric that's going to be used during the consideration of this court. We clearly won on characterization, right? Moving on, 2 points of individual responses then. Firstly, they told you that law is actually adaptive on their side of the House. 3 responses. Firstly, no, law is made years ago and maybe some changes can be made, but it's only made minorly, right? Secondly, even if law can constantly change, law is still made objectively and not subjectively. This means if something is not wrong in the eye of law, but maybe it is wrong morally, for example, like abortion, the changes wouldn't be made under side of the House. I don't get how social movement can suddenly thrive under side of the House. This means that if it doesn't suit the characterization of social movement that prioritize progressivity under side of the House, right? Second response then, they told you that, oh, we're actually attacking lawmaker under our side of the House. No, because we do discussion first with the lawmaker, we try to make an end result, but if it doesn't result into anything, then sure, we're probably trying to get like more extreme act, like demonstrating. But even if, yes, we do like these extreme act, so what? It is to get the awareness of the people, to actually, awareness of the government and to actually make change, and that is actually the purpose of social movement that we need to understand. Thirdly, compared to opposition then, they're literally trying to like invalidate an entire government body. I think that is what need to be considered as attacking lawmaker at the end of the day. So one thing to clarify is that LO framing about, oh, social movement is actually the enemy of the government is actually really, really weird, because if that is the case, then both side mechanism wouldn't even run at all, right? Moving on then, 2 arguments I'm going to bring. Firstly, on the idea of effectivity in making change and why that fits the entire like characterization of social movement the best, and why we won on this argument, right? One framing then, social movement exists like, social movement was made by the people and was made for the people. This means the utmost obligation of social movement is to ensure the people's voice are heard and their suffering is well represented by the people themselves and not by the court, right? 2 issues on the proposition then. Firstly, remember, the member of the social movement under our side of the House can present their argument, for example, publicly to advocate for outcomes that they want. This is likely because first, their voice wouldn't be misinterpreted by the constitution system. This could happen under opposition because it is not the people that directly speak, yet the court does it for them. This is problematic for 2 reasons. Because firstly, this means that the reason social movement wants to garner legislative change is because there's actually something wrong with the policy that was made by the government itself. But notice how the policy beforehand has probably been approved by the court itself. This means social movement and the opposition is simply quote-unquote asking them to reconsider their approval previously when they have probably made up their mind, when they have probably made up their mind previously based on concrete data. Secondly, if anything, there's going to be a lack of effectivity in terms of receiving the change. This is because if there's nothing wrong in terms of law, in the eye of law again, for example, like technically, for example, like abortion, technically according to law, that is not illegal, but morally, it could be wrong, and that is what social movement want to advocate. But under opposition, court will most likely not care about it as much, because again, court works rigidly based on objective law, right? Secondly, this is even better, better under our side of the House, because firstly, people know their own suffering the most, and know what is the one thing they want to advocate most urgently. This is exclusive under our side of the House, because firstly, they are the one that go down on the road themselves, they are the one that advocate, they show the suffering the most towards the people, they are the one that represent the suffering itself. Secondly, the moment they show desperation by shouting, throwing or something, etc., is only a picturization of how bad they want the changes is. They want the government to notice them. This means that government will feel a bigger sense of urgency under our side of the House and actually access the policy at the end of the day, right? Even if, in the worst case scenario, we do something like extreme lobbying, three idea why this is actually justified. Because firstly, that is only done as a last resort if they don't listen at all, and at least we try to make a change and not just sit down and wait for the court to do something, right? Second, we say society is trying to be more progressive, meaning like more support could come even if we do something extreme, like people are still going to support us if they actually agree with our ideology. Thirdly, at the end of the day, this still justifies as long as we're able to reach the change they want, and especially because government have failed at the first place, that's why social movement exists, to actually advocate for this change, even though it's done through extreme lobbying, right? Compared to opposition that, firstly, misrepresentation is likely to happen because first, social movement struggle and concern is only voiced on the bare minimum. For example, like they're only going to be submitting like a proposal. This means at most information is rigid, and insofar as opposition has really never proved to you what the characterization of how these social movement are able to, voice out their opinion towards the court without any setup, without any mechanism, we don't think that this, their case can run, right? Thirdly, Yeah, even worse on their side of the house, when court wouldn't allow social movement to discuss or engage with discussion itself. Meaning once the policy is still approved by the court, social movement cannot make any more change because court prioritizes effectivity. Instead, on the proposition, we say, even if at worst our policy is still disapproved, we take it because it is sometimes normal, because it is already something normal during discussion. Even better when we're at least able to like do discussion both ways, for example, like making response to the lawmaker argument at the end of the day. This argument is really important because first, the goal of social movement is to advocate for change more effectively. This is really important because first, social movement have limited resources, they have limited human resources, meaning if you keep doing advocacy that don't result into anything, it's going to be really harmful towards the sustainability of the social movement itself, meaning the people's voice probably wouldn't be heard because of the social movement cannot sustain it to begin with. So as long as we prove why change under our side of the house is able to cater to more people, why the representation under our side of the house is able to cater to more people concerned and can be done more effectively, we win on this clash. Moving on then on second argument, but before that I'll take it with POI.
Why is it the voicing out the voices of the people on the ground is exclusive under your side? We said it's also catered under our side. That is why the reasons why of social movement is created in the first place.
Yes, we already told you that on your side of the house, most likely people wouldn't be able to participate in the court itself. I'm actually going to extend that on my second argument later on, but actually people cannot participate in court itself because they're most likely only able to submit the proposal, which I believe that should have been explained by your LO previously, right? Moving on then, second argument also directly answering their POI regarding people discussion and awareness. Let's also firstly characterize the delta in this debate. Firstly, under proposition, lobbying could look like more transparent and it could be reported through media or social media, for example. Or in general, when you demonstrate on street, people will see you and that is how we get awareness under our side of the house. Second, compared to opposition then, when they choose like judicial review, there's going to be like existing less transparency, and this is likely because first, it is most likely going to be attended by the court people and they wouldn't allow any other like unimportant people no matter what. And secondly, court is in general more formal, meaning sometimes in some cases, some discussion within the court will not be published at all, especially in the media. This is harmful on the opposition for two reasons. Firstly, if it means that people don't know what is the problem and they won't get any awareness on the issue with the lack of transparency. This is harmful for two reasons, right? Firstly, with less people knowing, there's going to exist less awareness on their side of the house on the issue itself. Also, with less people knowing, it means like less people supporting, less bargaining power to go against the government at the end of the day, meaning effectivity of change on their side of the house is much less likely to happen, right? Notice bargaining power is important for social movement as it is the only way they can get an equal discussion ground with the government itself. Secondly, and the idea of less transparency, meaning there's going to exist smaller accountability, whereas you wouldn't really know what is happening during the discussion. We wouldn't be uncharitable and say that, oh, government will actually make a rational decision. Instead, we say that both the court and the people don't know what each other's standing is on a certain issue, and that is what's the harm on their side of the house. Compared to proposition then, we incentivize discussion through internet, we incentivize discussion through lawmaker, meaning that people can get more awareness and discuss it on the social media. Secondly, awareness is much prominent on the proposition because people know about the issue to begin with, and they can feel empathetic about the social movement agenda, and this means support is also much achievable under our side of the house. This argument is important for two reasons. Firstly, we proved to you that with more people on our side of the house knowing the issue, it's going to result into more people actually supporting our movement, meaning more bargaining power to advocate for more changes because we have more capacity to advocate for change towards the government. We are able to like reach an equal ground of discussion, right? Secondly, it's also within the interest of social movement as it means like better participation, which could result into more capital to sustain their movement at the end of the day, to actually make more change and cater towards the people suffering the most. Proud to stand in proposition.
Thank the speaker for their speech. To continue the case of the opposition, I call upon the second speaker of the opposition. Here.
Social movement is a catalyst for justice, to justify structural discrimination that has been long circulating in the life of poor and unfortunate individuals. And justice was always distributed from objective point of view. Hence, to fulfill the norms and to fulfill the incentive of being objective and the principal priority of social movement, you have to abide with our mechanism. Because principally, we win, we side with objectivity, and practically, my first speaker already proved to you that we also win, that we can make a legislative change. Two reasons why opposition for the House lose this debate. First, since the core burden to prove in these motions is changing the legislative branches, hence you cannot credit government too much since all of their cases are contingent upon ideal scenarios, ladies and gentlemen. Notice that there are no step-by-step analysis or likelihood, for example, of why this can be happen anyway or of why lobbying can be happen suddenly. They can simply jump to the scenario where they can get the benefit of lobbying without actually impose structural reasons why lobbying is most likely to happen. Especially when my first speaker already said that social movement belong to minority groups and on quantity base we are already losing. But second, their cases is not mutually exclusive. We also can cater to the voices of minority. We also can cater to the voices of the one who are suffering. On quantity base, it is equal. But second, we also want to advocate for changes, gentlemen. All of their benefit is not mutually exclusive only to them, because that was also our objective from the very beginning. But let's clarify things before moving on to my rebuttal. First, they said that social movement as an enemy of government is untrue. No, it is not true, because social movement emerged because status quo, especially majority groups, has failed to cater to these people or to maintain a system that cannot be ignorance to these people in and of itself. Therefore, yes, social movement in and of itself, in definitions, is the enemy of the government. Therefore, it is most likely for them to be unlikely to lobby government in and of itself. But second, about law, let's clarify things first. Law also operate based on morality. They say that it is only based on legal actions or something that are illegal and etc. What is legal and not legal can be the manifestation of what is moral and not moral. It is based on objective point of view, and it is based on principle of utility and etc. But let's elaborate things first before moving on to my rebuttal. On efficiency, my first speaker already said that on the basis of time, we said that we are more efficient. Why? Lobbying doesn't mean 100% percentage of success, ladies and gentlemen. Things such as parliament, for example, that you also has to go through, for example. Therefore, you also has to go through this complex bureaucracy where there's the conflict of interest, for example, where e.g. when there's a ruling party of the incumbent government, for example, then it is most likely for the ruling party to actually just passing their bill compared to your side, just one individuals or few groups of people, for example, that want to impose your bill or to actually cater to social movement in and of itself. Therefore, on efficiency, we also can win in this debate because because parliament in and of itself are containing complex bureaucracy that makes your that is time was are more longer. But second elaboration then about the mechanizations of judicial review. We said that judicial review are completely separated with government system. There is a system which is called trias politica in democracy to maintain check and balance. Therefore, it is completely separated with parliament, for example. It is completely separated with the executive. Hence, it cannot be influenced by the political stances, for example, by ideology and etc. It try to maintain the image as objective as possible because that was the objective from the very beginning. Later, but also second on our side, it will be assessed by the jurors, the expertise on channeling out justice, for example, in which these are things that they are mainly learn in their life, for example. Therefore, we want to credit or impose it or channel it to the one who can assess it from objective point of view. Therefore, on objectivity, we can win. But before rebuttal, yes.
What happens after a judicial review has a policy that social movement oppose on your side?
I think that social movement in and of itself has the objective to uphold things such as human rights, for example, because they are structurally being discriminated. Therefore, morally, for example, we can also pander to social movement interest since it is correlated with law in and of itself that uphold morality. But first rebuttal then about awareness, where they say that there will be awareness because they want to publicize these lobbying processes. One, it is not exclusive because court processes is also can be highly publicized, especially when there's a high profile crime, for example. Therefore, not because society can interfere, for example, but simply because society can assess it with their own subjective point of view. But second, we said that even if it is not high profile crimes and even if it is not publicized, we can, as a movement, we can actually display the result of the judicial review in and of itself because we have the right to do so and it is not exclusive. The other extensions shouldn't be credited. Listening to what my first speaker already said, we can concede two things. A, objectivity of law counterbalance the one counterbalance pandering to ideology or interest of incumbent government. The ones who are going to be in an advantage position in process of lobbying is the institution itself. Notice that they will pander to their ideology, interest, and etc. E.g., the ruling party is PDIP. Therefore, most likely, the parliament would most likely to follow the party interest rather than social movement interest. But second, it is not time consuming on your side because we don't go into this process of complex bureaucracy. I will add and extend this by extend the idea of how it can stimulate good public persona on social movement and why at the end of the day, good public persona can make a legislative change. Contextualize status quo then. In the context where social movement operate, most of the society against the ideology that they bring. Since social movement emerge out of public unrest and social ideology that are brought by majority groups that put minority in a disadvantaged position. This implies that on quantity, social movement mostly still losing. But even if there is support, things such as support from progressing society or they perceive support outside of their region, for example, when they operate, most of incumbents are still reluctant to change, either because they see social movement as a threat, for example, to their country ideology, and either because they push nationalism and etc. But third and most of all, since social movement also emerged because there is a dystopian emotion that shrouded it, things such as anger, revenge, and etc. Society who has status quo bias most likely labeled them as a radical and catalyst of unnecessary revolution, for example. They labeled them as a form of revenge that are justified with tears, for example, and etc. Why then it is comparatively better in terms of image? Social movement labeled themselves as a catalyst and medium to justice that are always sided with objective measurement on the issue. This is indirectly send a message that even if as a community I feel immense anger of status quo failure, even if as a community I feel immense disappointment on patriarchal system or immense rage towards environmental degradation, for example, we still has to cite and look at the issue from objective point of view, where we are cooperated with the court, for example, where jury are the credible actors to determine that this issue are wrong or not. Even if all of that, we can still look at it from the objective point of view. This is important because the premises is simple. This drastically shift the image of the social movement from medium to channel out revenge to medium to channel out justice. Therefore, we can cater to demographic in which that has status quo bias, things such as we can pull out their empathy, for example, because it is the human nature of that. On comparative, because we can pull majority voices, we can create legislative changes under all of those reasons proposes.
Thank the speaker for their speech. To close the substantive part of the proposition case, calling upon the government whip. Here.
Check, am I audible? Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, LO's biggest contention in this debate was only to say that law is good because it is already objective. To respond to this claim, firstly, we say no because the fact that each countries have different form of laws means that it is subjective to the countries of to the society of the country itself, right? The issue with this is that my PM has already told you that law is severely outdated, where even UUD in Indonesia, for example, had only received less than 10 updates since 1945, right? This misaligns with social movement, who is more progressive, for example, who is more updated with what the people want and need. The fact is that they are unhappy with the current and future law, and that is why they want to propose a change to begin with, right? They cannot just dismiss our entire claim by continuously telling you that law is already good and subjective, because if law is in fact that good to begin with, there will be no social issues right now. Secondly, we say that this also kills their idea, because if law is good, social movement wouldn't propose for a review to begin with under their side of the house. There is no existent incentive. We say opposition whip needs to prove the burden to you why, even if law is not objective, for example, why the idea of judicial review is still going to work, because we tell you that the general context of society is that law is bad, that social movement wants to change it, very proud to propose. Several strategic flaws then I want to note coming from their side of the house. Firstly, they try to co-opt our benefit of underground people participation. Notice, Judge, the delta here is that under their side of the house, court holds the discussion and and they're the one who made the decision to begin with, right? But comparison under us in the House is that people directly follow through the lobbying, for example, how people can easily follow through a riot and mogok kerja, for example. That is the kind of participation we want as a social movement, right? But second strategic flaw then, we say that they never answered what happens when a judicial review fails and, for example, social movement doesn't get what they want, right? DLO's response to this POI was entirely dismissive to say, whereas they told you that, oh, social movement is already, their agenda already aligns with the law, for example. But we say no, because if it in fact aligns, there is zero urgency for social movement, you're dismissing to the status quo right now. Lastly then, DLO's two worst case scenario in their entire speech, right? We say, when they told you that social movement will be seen as a catalyst, for example, to respond to this claim. Firstly, it is very unrealistic to status quo right now, where when we see people, for example, Indonesia, mogok kerja because they oppose the omnibus law, you don't see anyone complaining about the people, like for example, mogok kerja, you see the people complaining for the government for their failure, for example, because they failed to cater to the people, that is why they even mogok kerja to begin with, right? But secondly, if in the worst case scenario it does happen, we say it is entirely inexclusive. Why? Because this entire premise is contingent on the fact and generalization that society has towards social movement, that society views social movement as something that is radical, as something as bad. So even if under their side of the House, they want to provide a judicial review, for example, it is entirely symmetrical. Hence we say, whip speaker has to prove to you how they can actually change this entire generalization if they want to erase the stigma that has towards social movement, right? 2 points of clash I'm going to bring in my speech then. Firstly, on the idea of social movement bargaining power, which is the biggest contention in their speech. Firstly, LO told you that lobbying is an attack towards the state, whereas government will refuse to listen to you as a social movement. To respond to this claim, firstly, this is entirely untrue, because my PM has clearly stated to you that people will opt into diplomatic discussion first with lawmakers, for example, to discuss what is it that they want to oppose to begin with, right? We say that, for example, riot will only happen as a last resort if the lawmakers already reject what we want and they refuse to hear what we need. Secondly, but going by government own obligation, which they consider themselves, even if government don't like our method of lobbying, for example, we say they still have no choice but to listen to us and to engage with us, right? Because if not, lobbying will escalate further and it will further harm the government, for example, i.e. the mogok kerja, which hampers down the country's productivity, and at the end of the day, the government is the one who got the blame, right? So yeah, we say that they have to engage in this entire context. They cannot just say that, oh, government wouldn't listen to you, because if it is true, then there will be zero progressivity happening in society right now. We say instead that government and social movement will never be besties even on their side of the House when social movement exists to oppose government policies, for example, because we want a change. But if they want social movement to be weak, for example, and concede to whatever government wants and demands from you, we say that it is entirely counterproductive to social movement, because government knows themselves, even if judicial reviews fails under their side of the House, social movement won't contest that idea because they're afraid to be judged by the government. That is the biggest harm I want to propose to you in this speech. Because then under their side of the House, even if judicial reviews fail, social movement wouldn't do anything to contest the government because they're too afraid to challenge the government, right? We think that it's extremely bad under their side of the House for social movement to prioritize government reputation over what the people actually want and need, because that is not the purpose of the social movement to begin with, right? We say social movement exists as a check and balance towards government. You need to propose a change. The delta then, under our side of the House, our bargaining power is contingent on social movement supporters, for example, which is more tangible when society has already becoming more progressive, for example, whereas they starting to be more aware of the social issues because of the existence of social media, for example, right? Hence, this takes down opposition's concern, for example, about how minority wouldn't be enough to participate, because we tell you not only the minorities who participate, but also the majority and the rest of society who actually cares about the issues. But comparatively on their side of the House, right, their bargaining power is contingent on government approval or court approval, which social movement has zero control of, right? The moment judicial review is rejected under their side of the House, you cannot propose for a change again, you cannot propose for a review again, because you wouldn't be able to change the current legal principles, for example, right? Hence, it remains stagnant under their side of the House. Under our side of the House, even if in a worst case scenario we get rejected, we can still lobby again and again until it works, because that is our right as a social movement, right? The conclusion of this clash is simple. The effectivity of social movement can only be enhanced further under our side of the House when you instead try to propose for a change for the government. You are not scared of the government, you want government to listen to you, and that is why. Yes.
The objective of judicial review is to check and balance government. Therefore, government approval are necessary because we are separated entities.
Please read the motion slide again. It says that the one who approves the judicial review is the court, not the government. We say if government doesn't approve of us, it's fine, because at the end of the day, their method will still be the same, right? So yeah, government has the obligation to listen to us exactly because that is their obligation. You consider on that in your LO. Second touch then on the idea of discussion then. LO told you that, oh, there will be an intersection of multiple ideologies, for example, and it's going to be not productive. To respond to this claim, firstly, it is entirely dismissive to my PM's own claim. We told you already that if discussions were to happen with lawmakers, for example, we will choose a representative from the social movement, for example, one that can actually fully convey what people actually want and need. For example, Emma Watson for feminism. Secondly, even if in worst case scenario, we say it is entirely exclusive. Why? Because it means under the side of the House, the proposal you submit as a social movement for judicial review will also be an intersection of multiple ideologies because the same kind of people also exist under the side of the House. But lastly then, right, LO tried to bring a new mechanism where they told you that, oh, but we will open this judicial review for the public, right? Several reasons why this is not effective. First of all, this is not a way, like they didn't even mechanize this in their setup, right? We say that if the entire decision and the entire process of judicial review is decided by the court, whereas the decision is made and discussed between themselves, it means it's most likely not going to be open for the public because they don't need public opinion for that. They only need themselves and the court, right? So yeah, it entirely takes down the entire case about transparency or whatsoever it is because we say you, underside opposition, don't allow people to participate in what actually happens during the discussion, and that is why you cannot fully fulfill the people's aspiration and needs. We say the weighing here is on the idea of discussion, for example. First of all, social movement exists for the people. It exists there to convey what the people actually want and need. That is why lobbying is a very extreme, it's a very good form of representation under us in the House, exactly because people directly participate to convey to the government, for example, to the lawmakers, what they actually want to change in status quo right now. The comparison under this side of the House is that court is the one who decides everything. If court says it is aligned with the legal principle, for example, you basically fail as a social movement because you can no longer propose for a change, and that is why very proud to propose.
Thank the Speaker for their speech. To close the substantive case of the opposition, I call upon the third Speaker of the opposition. Hear, hear.
Check, check.
Government world is a world that want these environmentalists, that want more environment degradation, want more African American get oppressed in society and so many things just because you have to sit and wait for months to beg the government and the lawmakers to do something where everything is already dying palace. This is the picturization of government world exactly, right? Because the idea of lobbying is that you want to go and sit and negotiate and do meetings with lawmakers, meaning that you have to wait for their schedule for months, for example, meaning that you have to wait for more people that suffer on the ground just because you have to wait for this for these people that sit in the parliament to want to hear your voices, right? Notice how cruel this cases is balanced, and notice how this is something that actually suffering of the people on the ground and more environmental degradation at the end of the day, right? Our world is a world that want to immediately address the issue through the objective view of the court in judicial review. Oppose. Caprice should lose this debate for three major reasonings panels. One, we said that this is a debate that is talking about legislative change. Therefore, all of their claims that is saying that they want to cater to the people and etc. can never stand balance because they never prove to you how legislative change will be achieved under their side to begin with, right? Comparatively, panels, we have told you how legislative change can be created under our side through the judicial judicial review because our backs is because we have our back holding up by the court itself, right? But secondly, the major case is the major case is keep playing on the base case balance that this will be progressive and etc. This is dismissive, right? With the current status quo that we barely make progress to begin with balance, meaning that there will be no progressive at the end of the day because if you really want to talk about the feasibility of your case being progressive and want to cater to the government, our status quo is already suffering anyway, right? There is no progress at the end of the day. Therefore, we said that your case is already fall. This is important to prove balance because in order to win, you have to engage to the worst case. What if it's not progressive at the end? But thirdly then, their case is never exclusive to begin with panels. They talk about how they speak for people, but we have told you and we have do POI them again and again, right? That we also can achieve that balance. We can achieve holding up the voices of people because the moment we create this social movement, for example, is the moment that we cater to the people on the ground, right? 2 points of independent rebuttals then. One, under the idea that law is actually subjective to the context of the country itself. Panels, 2 responses for this one. What is the crucial harm exactly, right? Isn't it the same with social movement in every country? They advocate for different things, panels. The feminist movement in South Korea operates differently with feminism in USA, right? Because the context of the country is different, panels. What does this prove to you? It proves to you that the agenda of one social movement is always subjective to the country itself and to the law to begin with, panels. Meaning that we flip the point of objectivity, panels. It's still objective under our side. Right? Because it's subjective to each country, and it's not a harmful thing at the end of the day because it's still subjective. But it's still so objective to the law that happened in the country itself. But secondly, even if so, it's not objective, panels. We said that it's still okay because at the very least we create progress that we are not just succumbing to the power of government that want to shut down us again and again as a social movement that's seen as something that is not have enough power in
POI.
society. But later, second respondent, under the idea that we did not fulfill the interest of social movement, panels, we think that government is the team that actually did not fulfill the interest of social movement to begin with, right? You are not fulfilling the interest of social movement because the moment you lobby to the government, for example, is the moment you want to negotiate to the lawmakers, panels. What does this prove to you? Social movement have its own stances, lawmakers have its own stances, panels, meaning that there will be no end to this negotiation, meaning that the end is finding a middle ground between these two parties, right? Meaning that the middle ground is never actually catering to the interest of social movement to begin with because you have to cater to the interest of these lawmakers to begin with, panels. To prove to you, that it's staying the principle of purity of social movement to begin with because it's something that is not inherently in line with their agenda. We said what is the visualization of these panels? Lawmakers have their own party that control them, but jurors don't have any political stance under our side. This is why judicial review is something that is going to be so effective at the end of the day. I will take your POI.
If you want to oppose anti-abortion laws and yet the policy aligns with legal principles, what do you do?
We said that the moment we want to do a judicial review is the moment we create an objective regulation under our side of the house, right? That seen what is actually the government doing and whether or not it's backlashing with the ideal with their goal of wanting to achieve something. This looks like the government of Indonesia that want to create more, that want to plant more trees in the end of the day, but they ended up on like cutting down all of the trees in Kalimantan, for example. This looks like that, panels, and this is what we want to do through the judicial review. Moving to my first class, talking about progressivity of social movement. Government has come into this debate and said that the biggest claim is that they are progressive because people on the ground can contribute and their voices can be heard. Two responses for these panels. One, what is the parameter of progressive actually, right? You cannot credit this when they're only claiming one liner benefit that is never clear to begin with. But let me fill in their case and what is the parameter of progressive actually, panels. Two parameters, right? One, whether or not you can show the tangible impact of this progressivity, and secondly, whether or not the impact can be felt by the people on the ground, panels. These parameters only fulfilled under our side because exactly the moment we create judicial review is the moment we show that we want to create tangible impact in society, and this is one thing that we champion. But secondly, even if so that is the parameter that they bring, we said that they still lose this debate, panels, because it's never exclusive to begin with, right? We can still cater to the voices of people on the ground. We push our agenda because we are the body that is actually representing them, right? Even if so, panels, we said that their visibility is still questionable at the end of the day, right? You want to bring people to face the lawmakers and speak out their concern and the struggle, for example, but they fail to analyze the characteristic of people to begin with. We said that no, all people have the capability to speak up to begin with, panels. When they have been oppressed by the government, when the Black American have been oppressed by the government and US for thousands of years, for example, they create a trauma that even if facing the government itself is something that is very scary to them, right? We don't understand how government can suddenly claim that it's so easy for these people to go to the lawmakers and say that, oh, I have this change, oh, I have this concern, and you have to create policy about this. We don't understand. But let's see what my team has bring into this debate. We said we create more progress because we want to immediately address the issue by wanting to work together with court. Panels, opposition opposition respond by saying, government respond by saying that this will not achieve anything because the process of it did not get published immediately. Two reasons for this. One, we already told you from the start that this is publicized, right? We don't understand what government is hearing to begin with. Panels, we said that we are publicizing this to the people, meaning that the people will know the price of this, right? This is even better under our side because our message will not be simplified, panels, simply because we are going under the objective view of law. Comparatively, negotiation and meeting with the lawmakers and all of that have no clear parameter at the end of the day, right? Meaning that there is no objective view that is going under government side of the house, and this is something that you cannot obtain, panels. But secondly, we said that let's be charitable and engage in the delusional case, panels. Even if it will never get publicized, we still can win at the end of the day because we are the one that shows the result, the end result of this judicial review. The lobbying will take months, even years for it to have result at the end of the day. You should forfeit Sultan.
I thank the speaker for their speech. To close the entire case of the opposition, I call upon the opposition reply. Hear, hear.
The goal of this debate is not about people's participation and the way people get exposed towards the issue, but what we need to pay attention to is the end of the motion, which is about legislative changes and legislative changes only, where therefore, even if all of their cases about the idea of exposure and people can participate regarding riots and the discussion flies, it doesn't really answer the reason as to how it reaches the end goal of this movement at the end of the day. Therefore, this doesn't really take into account their situation, meaning their argument about effectivity cannot really take into account within the situation. To begin with, their fatal flaw is that they only pray within the ideal situation, that government will always be ideal and wanting to listen, especially with their generic principle that government will always be a part of the people and listening towards what they want at the end of the day. Talking about how this discussion will be fair, even though it still takes into account as to whether or not you are within the segmentation of their own voters, for example, etc. Where it doesn't take into account the fact that you are going against the state, things like fear mongering, intimidation, etc. You shouldn't take into account that you are merely a citizen, but you are an individual that is going against the state. Therefore, during these instances, their clarification doesn't really matter. If you get listened to, it doesn't matter if you are not catered to by a matter of policies and going against what do they actually want. One main question within this debate regarding the progress of social movement in its entirety. They brought to you three main ideas. First, regarding the idea of generating discussion. Second, about public participation, about effectivity. Third of all, about how law is rigid. First then, regarding the idea of generating discussion. To begin with, there is still no reasoning or analysis what happens when the interest suddenly intercepts or contradicts towards one another, especially if this is a matter of movement which goes against the objective moral standard that we have always been opposed. And I think that their clarification or adding onto another layer by adding people who represent and those who convey the message doesn't really even matter when the process of this discussion doesn't even have an outcome to begin with. But even then, talking about the idea of public participation, we already outframe this because it doesn't really matter, because the end goal is not a matter as to how much people can actually enter these types of discourses, but it is a matter of whether or not the legislative can change. Therefore, what is important to consider within this debate is how much power or bargaining power you have, despite the power imbalance that you have in the terms of in terms of money, soft power, and the followers, etc. Therefore, the ones that can balance out is the one that can actually win this debate. But third of all, talking about how the system of law is rigid and it is too objective, etc. I think that regardless in any cultural context, human rights about the suffering of the people will still be upheld at the end of the day, where the process of reasoning to what harm or to what extent the environmental degradation or women raising the kids that do not want still counts and taking into account the fact that it is a harm. Therefore, the process of judicial review is the one that can actually cater towards this, recognizing the fact that under their side, the policy maker is the one that that makes the decisions and cannot and doesn't take into account your own suffering, but rather their own political interest, regardless of any situation. But moving on to our case, then we mainly talk about how law is the only way or tool for your assistance to to take into account the power imbalance that is currently happening within the status quo, where the process analysis regarding how much power you have within the movement doesn't really matter, because law only takes into account what is your suffering, where it is not a matter of a proposal that we give, but a matter of showing into court. And second, we talk about the idea of like the efficiency of law, where inherently we do not take time in offering proposal or entering waiting list, etc. Where it is important because this is a time-sensitive issue. What's the weighing then? Two things. Number one, we provide a degree of safety net, because regardless how much power you have or what state of your movement currently is, whether that would be first or second wave, it still take into account and has a degree of protection through judicial review. But lobbying relies upon the lawmakers who make the decisions. But second of all, we win on likelihood, because this is a matter of law and the picturization of bad or good. Therefore, there is no political affiliation. We get a degree of protection. Vote for opposition.
Thank the speaker for their speech. To close the case of the proposition and the debate as a whole, proposition reply, hear.
Three mistakes coming from side opposition proving why they cannot win this debate. Firstly, there were no clear mechanization on what really is judicial review and what is the metric of consideration during decision making. This mistake cost them this entire debate because first, it means every PM characterization on our side can run, which means they can see that judicial review is not transparent and court make decision based on reality, right? Also, it means that every benefit they talk to you about cannot even run because they never show how the process look like and why court will actually want to listen to these people going by their own inexclusive framing. Secondly, they push uncharitable burdens saying that, oh, lobbying is not 100% guaranteed to succeed. Firstly, sure, we agree, but it doesn't happen 100%, but that is also inexclusive, right? Second, at least, even if the policy didn't get passed under our sub house, we still get the benefit through awareness because the process is entirely transparent under our sub house. This means even if they fail now, they can do it once again later on because there are more people interested in participating in the movement. Thirdly, right? One of the biggest point they brought to you was that law is objective to the society, but again, there's a lack of pixelization on what is actually objective to the society. Because if law is objective to begin with, we believe that every country will probably have the same law. And also, my PM biggest contention that was never engaged by LO is to say, it's regarding that law is extremely outdated because it was made by the society's opinion in the past, which is subjective, and this doesn't align with what social movement wants, which is something that is progressive and updated based on what the current society wants, right? Also, opposition tried to convince you on the idea that judicial review understands human rights. But this is overall dismissive because then why in the status quo anti-LGBTQ policies still exist, for example, right? Moving on then, two clash I'm going to bring. Firstly on the idea of representation, secondly on effectivity of social movement. First clash on representation. We told you two things. That firstly, people's voice can get represented better under the house when they're able to voice out their suffering as it is and not through a lot of bureaucratic process. Secondly, we also told you that under opposition, people cannot participate actively in the discussion because court is formal and it probably wouldn't allow so much people in to discuss. This means this is harmful because social movement relies on the quantity of people to get more bargaining power, but instead under the house, the amount of people is limited, right? Notice there weren't any significant response coming from opposition on the idea of representation. This mistake should be punished heavily in this debate because social movement exists for the people and the main purpose is actually represent the people the most, right? Two things they told you on this issue then. Firstly, they told you that there will be too much interceptive ideology. Two response. First, no, we told you that society works, like social movement works communally for one single agenda and goal. I don't get how people in proposition will suddenly propose for two different contradicting ideology. Secondly, even if there are different opinion, it just further posit that people want their struggle to be heard. Compared to opposition, people cannot even do so anymore because they only rely on the court own interpretation. Secondly, they told you that social movement is an attack to the government. Firstly, this is, This can only be done on an extreme, like we told you that extreme act will only be done as a last resort. And then secondly, LO can see that government actually have the obligation to listen to the people and actually participate in discussion, right? Also, since this is a THBT motion, I don't think they can actually challenge the fiat of actually government wanting to participate in it or not, right? Moving on then, second clash on effectivity of social movement. We told you also two things. Firstly, we get more awareness because it's more transparent and people get more understanding of the issue. We get more people to support the movement. Secondly, we told you that we can also do like lobbying later again if it really fails right now in the very worst case scenario. This is already an answer that we have given, proving that we already engaged on a worst case scenario, we fulfill our burden. Compared to opposition then, what happened? Firstly, we told you that under the House, court is going to prioritize effectivity, means that it's less likely for court to actually reconsider their previous decision. This means opposition have actually yet to prove what happened under their worst case scenario if the court actually doesn't approve it at the first place, because obviously these decisions are not going to be 100%, 100% guarantee on their side of the House. Secondly, we also tell you that the problem exists first in the status quo because the same court accepted the policy to be released in the past, yet under opposition, again, you ask them to reconsider the entire idea, which is obviously harmful. This clash should be weighed heavily for two reasons. Because firstly, effectivity of social movement means that we are able to get more people to participate in the movement. Secondly, more people means more bargaining power, and in general, the movement can actually sustain better, get more capital, and actually represent the minority voice, and yeah, succeed as a social movement to stand in proposition.
Thank the speaker for their speech. And with that, the semi-final round of NSTC in this room has elapsed. I'd like to say congratulations and thank you to both teams for finishing the debate. You may cross the floor, shake hands, and please wait in the debaters' hall for the announcement. Thank you, everyone.
Sejak 1960, kami berupaya memberikan kontribusi bagi bangsa dalam membangun dan mencerdaskan melalui pendidikan. Universitas Ahmad Dahlan menjadi pilihan utama mewujudkan cita-cita. Setiap tahun, tak kurang dari 7.000 mahasiswa baru dari dalam dan luar negeri bergabung bersama kami. Dengan inovasi, teknologi, dan kreativitas, serta dilandasi integritas intelektual dan integritas moral yang dijiwai nilai-nilai Islam, kami ciptakan suasana belajar yang